Alright guys, so I got a budget mobile phone here to look at that has smaller bezels. Well, they say it's bezel-less, but really we know better. It's not going to be completely bezel-less, just like the Mi Mix. There's still going to be a bit of a bezel in there. This is the Doogee Mix. So the name is the same as the Xiaomi Mix. Copying off that, you could say, really, but this one is a lot more budget orientated. It's retailing for about $179 on sites like banggood.com. 4GB of RAM and 64GB version is the one I've got here. Now this is powered by a MediaTek Helio P25. That's an octa-core, and it has a wireless in, a 720p screen, which is going to be hard for me in 2017 to go back to a 720p screen. It's a Super AMOLED panel. Rear cameras on it. It's got a dual camera setup. So one of them 16 megapixels, the other 8 megapixels. 3,380 milliamp hour battery too. Okay, put the mobile phone to the side for just a second. I'll just see what else we get in the box here. So this looks like it's just going to be an instruction manual. No, it's in fact a case. That is good. So we've got a case here and a screen protector. Some extras there that you don't often see. Warranty card and just information that I can see: Russian, looks like Portuguese, Spanish, English, so European languages on there. Now there's a keyring here with a 8GB USB pen drive, nice little extra, and EU charger. Now this is rated to 5 volts, 2 amps, so not quick charging, no. So no MediaTek Pump Express by the looks of it. And we get a black USB cable here, so that's micro USB. It does not have Type-C. And lastly, this floating around in there is our SIM tray eject tool, of course. Alright, so let's have a look at those bezels. So straight away I can see there's got a fingerprint reader down the bottom there. Now this is a capacitive one, it's not a click-in style there. And we've got a camera right here on the chin. So the camera is down in the bottom, of course, because they didn't have space to put it in the top when they've minimized the bezels on the design of this phone here. So very similar to the Mi Mix here. Down the bottom I can see we've got a couple of grills here. Now one of these will be the loudspeaker, the other will of course house the microphone inside, and a micro USB 2 port there. So on the right hand side we have the power and volume up buttons. These are made out of metal. It moves a little bit as you can see there, but no rattling. Or actually no, there is a tiny bit of rattle there. And this whole outside is a painted glossy black, and it is metal, so it feels solid and reasonably good in hand. You can see there along the top the earpiece and some slight imperfections of the paint job along the top here. What looks to me like we've got almost antenna lines that they've painted over. 3.5mm headphone jack is also there, of course. And the SIM tray on the left hand side, so you can put either a micro SD card in here and a nano SIM, or 2 nano SIMs for dual SIM support. So on the rear we've got 2 rear cameras. Now one of them's 8 megapixels, the other 16, the main sensor, and it has an f2.2 aperture. They're both Sony sensors apparently, and they do support, the main one at least, phase detection autofocus. Next to the sensors there, an LED. This whole back is made out of glass. Now both of these cameras will support that depth of field effect, so we can get those blurred backgrounds with the bokeh effect. Just under 200 grams, 197 grams, which is a little on the heavier side, probably because it's using that all metal frame around the whole outside of it. And it comes in at 8.38 millimeters of thickness. But where the camera bulges, that brings it up to 8.75 millimeters, which isn't bad at all. It's reasonably thin. So time to power it up for the first time and just go through the setup. Need to pull that off, of course. Okay, so it's got a pre-applied screen protector. So deep blacks coming from the AMOLED panel, Super AMOLED. But at 720p, we're going to see some pixels definitely if you look at it close enough, but so far it actually doesn't look too bad. Okay, I just had to turn down the ISO setting of my camera just to capture the screen because it was just overpowering my ISO setting I first had there. So this is all your typical setup, fresh start. I won't set up the wireless at this point. So it doesn't have wireless AC, I think it's just wireless N. I'm not even too sure if it supports the 5G band, but I'll check that in just a second. Okay, I'm going to add a fingerprint. So I can see we've got on-screen menu buttons here. They don't have the hardware ones enabled. So locate the fingerprint sensor. Okay, so that is set up. I won't add another one, but I probably should. Oh. Okay, it's preparing my launcher. So there we go. We can see the bezels there now. They're quite slim, but a bezel-less definitely isn't, like all those other phones I've looked at. So the screen, I think, at the moment is, yeah, on full brightness, or almost. That's full brightness. Very powerful. I'm just going to tone that down a little bit here. And we'll have a look and see what kind of bloatware they've got installed on there. Okay, not too familiar with this skin they've got on there. So it's got a search apps thing that's come up first. Okay, that's the way to do it. But really, bloat-free, we've only got all your pretty much essential Google apps on there, while Drive and Duo and other things you probably don't need on there. GD Extender, no idea what that is. So there's a couple of bloatware apps on there, but overall, not too bad there. See how this fingerprint reader performs. Need the pin first. Okay, try again. A little slow, not too bad. Yeah, there's quite a few second delay before that pops up. Well, I don't know what the heck this cat thing is there. That's kind of annoying. What is that stupid? What is it meant to be? It's a Game Boy, then it's like a little cat thing. How can we get rid of this crap? I don't want it there. Get away. Maybe it's something the Chinese like. Okay, so I found out how to get rid of that annoying little Game Boy cat thing here. That's part of the launcher. I thought it was an application, but you just need to hold this down here, go into the launcher settings, and then turn off the no on-screen home. I'm also going to get rid of their search bar as well because it seems to be suggesting things, so I don't like that. So now that it's gone, no more Game Boy silly cat thing there. So I just measured the top bezel comes in at 4mm, which is really quite good, and the side bezels, this is just the glass, the black area, is 2.5mm. So, you know, they are quite slim, considering also this is a budget device, sells for about $179 US. I mean, it's a good design to have at that price point. Now, if you look at the bezels compared to a typical 5.5-inch mobile phone, they're really only slimmer at the top. Both the side bezels, they're pretty much the same as other mobiles, so that's the only real benefit. It just makes it look a little bit nicer, I guess, not having such a large top bezel. So if you notice here, this display looks a little bit grainy, and that's because it's got a screen protector on it that isn't exactly the most clearest, doesn't offer the best clarity, but it's also down to the fact that it's a 720p screen. As you can see here, I checked for a wireless update, and it does connect up with my 5G wireless band there, so that's good. It does support dual band, but wireless N, and there are no firmware updates there. And it is running Android 7, so not the latest version. The latest is 7.1.2, I think it is. And the security patch level is from June the 5th, which is decent. I mean, that's not too old. It's only about a month old. So here's what the case looks like on the mobile. You can see it covers all of the corners reasonably well. Should at least protect it from a drop without getting the outer metal frame dented or anything like that. Openings for the ports. And it even covers the buttons there. Feels nice in hand. It's not showing fingerprints at the moment, but it's got this matte plastic coating over the top of it. Hopefully that's wear resistant. But not too bad, and nice to see that they've included this in the box, because you don't normally get cases with mobile phones. So the loudspeaker is really quite disappointing. It's not loud enough. It's about 77 decibels max. Ideally, I like to have about 85 or even over. So disappointing in the loudspeaker department. Hopefully there's going to be a firmware update to boost the volume at least. But even at 100% at this quiet level, it still distorts a little bit the speaker. So quite poor. So the performance of the mix here is okay, but I've noticed that the scrolling, for example, in this app here that they've got built into the launcher, doesn't seem as smooth as it should be. And some of the animations, you will see a little bit of lag just here and there. See, that comes in quite quick now. But it's not the fastest mobile phone, or definitely not in this price range. You would never expect that anyway. So I have a look at just two benchmarks that I've run. So first up is Geekbench 4. I mean, it's an okay score for, again, the price of this mobile. And here we have Antutu score there, so 62,000. So here in the stock camera application, we've got a couple of modes here that you'd all expect you can see. So face beauty, that's just gonna blur your skin, do that beautifying effect. Blur, using the dual sensors to give you a bokeh effect, the blurred background. And then mono, which is of course black and white. Panorama, and then pro mode, so we can tweak and adjust the white balance, ISO, and exposure compensation. There not really a lot of settings. So video quality goes all the way up there to 4K. You can enable the electronic image stabilization, disable the microphone, and GPS location, but I'm not too sure if that actually works on video. So I'm going to head out now and we'll get some sample shots just to give you a rough idea of what you can expect from the camera performance here on both the front and rear cameras. And a very quick sample now with the front facing camera, so only 480p. That's the maximum resolution, so the quality is average, you know, it's not capturing that much detail. Ideally I'd like to see 720p as a minimum on a front facing camera here. So this is the rear camera now, or one of the two sensors there. I think it's a 16 megapixel one, shooting in 4K. And the viewfinder looks quite stuttery and choppy, and the quality doesn't really look to be that good either. Now there is no continual autofocus, which can be a bit of an issue here. You've got tap to focus, so anything up close you're going to have to tap on it first, and then you see now it's got the lock, and I think then it will take over again and should have that tree in focus. So I just tapped again and you'll see that it does pulse in and out there. But I mean, the quality here from the viewfinder at least looks very choppy. So that is it for the Doogee Mix. I think it's an interesting phone for the price, the fact that you're losing that top bezel. But there's some compromises, of course. We've got the camera now down in the bottom, so when you take selfies and video with the front-facing camera, you're going to have to flip it around and then use it that way. So you're not going to be getting your palm in the way, your hand in the way when you're getting those selfies. Now the screen at 720p isn't exactly the greatest. I've noticed that when I was out, the sunlight legibility suffers a little bit too. It's not the greatest in sunlight, but you can still make out and see what you're doing at least. But here indoors, you can see that it's quite bright. It seems an okay screen, but I would have preferred a 1080p panel. Now, judging by those sample images I've just taken of the camera that, yeah, the quality, as you'd expect again for this price and category of mobile, isn't particularly good. Neither is the video quality there. Front-facing camera seems very disappointing, only VGA resolution, so it can't even do 720p. Ideally, I would like that to be a minimum for front-facing camera. Now, the performance of the ROM seems all right. I did notice that now and then you get a couple of little lags here and there. Battery life and things like that, I will have to come back with an update on that if I decide that this makes the cut for a full dedicated review of it. But I'm not really too sure at this stage. I just feel that, okay, you get the slimmer bezel at the top, but the side bezels aren't any slimmer, and really the build quality is a little bit lower than what I've seen of other brands like Meizu or Xiaomi, for example. I feel that if you want a good mobile for those kind of price ranges, then perhaps you're better off looking at other options too. They have 1080p displays, they're a lot brighter. They also have Snapdragon 625s in them, better battery life, and overall I feel better options here than the Mix. But it is kind of interesting and good to see them giving us this kind of bezel-less design, even though it's not really bezel-less, at this price range. Thanks a lot for watching this unboxing here, and I hope to see you back in the channel soon.